All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to part one of this two-part event, Reimagining Program Delivery for Students During COVID-19. So many organizations traditionally meet with students in person, whether that's through after-school programs or programs within the school. And due to COVID-19, we have all been experiencing some changes and some challenges in the way that those services are delivered. Many are not able to meet with students because learning restrictions, virtual learning, not allowing guest speakers for those schools who are in person. So many changes for all of us. So how can we get creative about continuing to serve and deliver to students? That is what we're here for today. That is what we will continue the conversation with next week. So during today's portion of the event, we will hear from Vicki Ladd, who will share consideration for working with schools as they reopen. Following Vicki, we'll get to hear directly from some students about some of their thoughts during this time. And that's what I'm most excited about, even though I'm really ready to make some notes from Vicki's chat, but I'm super duper excited to hear from the youth. And so without more of my blabbing, I'm going to turn it over to Vicki. And then after she presents, I will open it up for our student panels to get started.
Thank you, Tabitha. I'm actually really excited to hear the students too. I've been doing a lot of talking these days. So my name is Vicki Ladd. I'm the state school nurse consultant. And what that fancy title really means is that I work for both DHEC and the Department of Ed. And I am really like a resource to both the agencies and the school nurses to kind of help them navigate any questions that they have. And of course, right now with COVID, there are tons of questions from everybody. And that includes not just the nurses, but parents, administrators, superintendents, state agencies, nonprofits. It's anybody and everybody. It is such, an unprecedented time that we're living through. So I thought I'd start a little bit with just a little bit of a description with what the landscape looks like right now for schools. I know, as you know, if any of you who are going to be speaking on our panels are still in high school or elementary school or middle school, you know that we have gone back in all different ways. So I just took the tally today. We have 10 schools are still completely virtual, that's school districts. We have 15 districts that are having students go back 5 days a week in person. They're still offering virtual options, but the families do have the option of being there, having their kids there 5 days a week. And then we have 54 districts, the vast majority, that are doing hybrid. They're letting folks choose all virtual, or they have a hybrid in-person option, which is usually a 2-day option. So kids might go to school Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. A lot of times Fridays are used as sort of virtual catch-up days. It might be a day that a student can go in and get in the building services if they need some type of service. We also have lots and lots of charters, privates, independents, and parochials. Most of those are in person. Some are doing virtual, but so we have a lot of kids that are getting time in the building. It just doesn't look like it used to. I think it's good for everybody to know that there is a map on the Department of Ed website. It's a color-coded map of the state of South Carolina, and you can look at it and see what districts are doing in your county to see if they are open for in-person or are they strictly virtual. And the districts are making updated decisions every 2 weeks. So it could be that if a district has a hybrid option this week and you look at that map next week, they might be in person 5 days. They're taking a look at a lot of the metrics and things that we're producing, and they're making new decisions, which I guess gives me hope that for those folks that are struggling to get into the districts, that we will, as we see our numbers come down, and I hope that communities can keep those numbers coming down, keep adhering to wearing masks and, not big gatherings without masks, things like that jump those numbers in a weekend. I hope that we can see that get managed and we can get kids back into school where they really need to be. I wanted to give an example of so I work with a lot of different groups at DHEC as well, because all kinds of people tie to schools. And so they tend to ask me to help out if they've got a project related to schools going on. So our oral health division had a grant funded project to provide dental services in the PD region. And of course, like many of you, they were basically stalled. What do we do? How can we do? We can't do direct service for the nature of the grant. And they were able to get permission from their grantor, the folks that are giving them the money, to be able to kind of change gears a little bit. And so what they were able to do was create a prevention project that won't involve going and directly doing a service. They've created a kit that each student will get. And so they're going to be actually distributing almost 10,000 toothbrush and oral health kits that range from getting a timer, toothpaste, floss, a toothbrush, a little guide on best practices for doing your own oral health care. And then they're also doing some kits for the school nurses. The school nurse could do a little training virtually with kids, or they could go in and do a classroom presentation for those kids that are attending. Right now, I think most of the PD is hybrid. So most of those kids, the nurse could go in and do small group presentations with the kit, the training kit. So, how does that look? That really is going to involve getting a whole bunch of these kits into the right hands. And so we've done a lot of hoop jumping. We are going to get the boxes to the health departments, and then we're going to get the nurses have volunteered to come and pick up those boxes. There will be many, many, many boxes, as you can imagine. They're going to pick up those boxes. They're going to get them to the right schools. And then we've got lots of staff that are going to help. We're going to have teachers helping give them out in classrooms if the kids are in person. And for the kids that are virtual, we've got meal programs going on, and the meal program staff is going to help give out the kits to those kids that are virtual and that are just, and even that is done differently in different schools. So we can't just say family can pick up or whatever. Some districts are going to be dropping door to door. They're dropping meals door to door. So they're going to bring kits to somebody's door. Others, the family has to come in and pick up their meals, so they will get their toothbrush kits when they come pick up the meals. So that's just a really simple example of one grant-funded project that they really needed to do. As we know, grants have time limits and they're pretty strict. And if you don't want to lose your funding, you have to get creative. So they were able to do that. So then as far as anybody else who really wants to get in the schools, I will tell you, when I get any opportunity to talk to superintendents or administrators, I really try to stress the message that they should not say no, that these services that are offered by so many wonderful organizations providing such a range of assistance for students, that they should not say no. These are needed services in the schools, and the schools know that. They're just so overwhelmed. So I think that their inclination, especially, you can hit them on a bad day when they've just had, maybe 10 kids are positive for COVID, and they're scrambling to collect, information and make phone calls. You can hit them on a bad day, and they might want to say no. And so I have said, please don't say no. Try to say we'll pause if we need to, but don't say an outright no. And then hopefully something can get worked out. One of the things I do think that is better, and if you're able to tell the school that you have a safety plan, because some of the things that they're going to be concerned with is, what do you need from them? Are you asking for them to supply something more than students? Do you need technology from them? Do you need PPE because you don't have your own? Do you need, hand sanitizer? Do you need supplies? Or are you able to come and present a safety plan? And I say, if you can, if you have, if you have masks that you're supplying all of the folks that would be working with you, if you have a plan for how to maintain social distancing, if you've got enough support to be able to supervise groups of kids so that the school isn't trying to provide extra staff for you to support kids, that's a great way to present it and put your very positive things up front. hey, we're safe, we have a safety plan, we can help with monitoring and maintaining control and social distancing. If you present things that way, I think you have a much better shot of getting into a school district right now. If you go and say, well, we want you to do all those things, as you can imagine, an overburdened school is their inclination is gonna be to say no. So just to keep it really short and sweet, don't give up, keep asking. Everything that you do is so necessary. If you feel like you're going to get a quick no, or they want to say no, just ask them if they can please think about how. Even if they can't answer you today, but can they think about how you could both work creatively together? And I do think it's important to also think about potentially partnering together, because if it's going to be, say, a parking lot event, it might be easier just in terms of structure and support to partner with other nonprofits and have a bigger parking lot drive-through event than for maybe one small group. And that way you can attract more parents, maybe who are virtual, so that you can get people onto the campus. You've got more of a draw. You've got several people who are going to be there to provide a service. And I think that will be a good, support for parents who they're also busy and they're also struggling, and for maybe to get out one time to get their kid several things. Maybe they can, get some oral health services, some nutrition information, and some other different kinds of services that you offer, or even just learn what kind of services are out there and how could they access them in the community if there are other access points for what you're offering. So again, just that stress of don't say no, say how. And I think that's really all I have. Does anybody have any questions? I don't see anything in the chat box, so I'm going to turn it over to the next group.
Thank you so much, Vicki. Definitely some great insight and information. I really like that part about partnering, thinking of ways that you can maybe jointly do something, but taking a lot of that stress and load off of the school administrators, because I'm pretty sure if it's something that extra that they have to do, especially in these times, you are probably going to get that quick no. And so I am looking to see who all is on, just to make sure we have our first set of panelists. I think we have our folks that we can split them up into two. Is that correct, Tramice? Just want to double check.
Yes, we can go ahead and start with the first group of two.
With the first group? Okay, sounds good. If I mess up your name, please just correct me. I'm really big about trying to get them correct. So if I mess up your name when you introduce yourself, I'll then know it for next time. So if Kiana, Brandon, Kamaria, and Zoe will turn on your cameras for the first 4 questions, I can get you to turn on your cameras. We will get started. And if you would like to submit any questions, be sure to use the Q&A box, just so that we're able to keep track of those questions and we're able to pull from those and see those. So if you have a question, just make sure you do that, and then just hit the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom. Whether you're on the phone or the computer, it should be on that bottom panel. All right. And Shavy, please turn on your camera. All right. Okay, we're going to get started. If everyone will just tell me your first name, grade, and the county that you live in. We'll start there. And you all can unmute yourselves, and hopefully we won't have too much overlap. we can kind of see each other when their like lips are about to start moving. But if we can get everybody to just introduce yourself, first name, grade, and the county that you live in.
Okay, so my name is Zoe. I am a senior this year, and I live in Lexington County.
Hello, my name is Shavy. I'm a senior and I also live in Lexington County.
My name is Brandon. I'm in 9th grade and I live in Richland County.
Okay, that everybody that's here so far. All right, awesome. So could you give us some examples outside of speaker services or programs that were typically offered at your school? So if there are any other outside of just your learning services that were offered at your school, like maybe that pre-Rona days, right? So did you all have like guest speakers or any activities, any things like that kind of were happening at your school that you can remember?
Last year, sorry if I was interrupting anyone just then, but last year in one of my classes that I took, we had a speaker come in for our public health class, and he talked about kind of like mental health and how to like identify the symptoms of people that might start like going through a rough patch and stuff like that, and just kind of how to like help them and things like that. And that's the only one I can really remember. I feel like there's been more, but he's the most recent one.
Sounds good. Thanks for that, Zoe. Anybody else? Any like organizations maybe that are offered at your school that have kind of changed? Because my next question is going to be around how have those things shifted as a result of like COVID-19? So even if you don't want to talk about outside services that change, feel free to use this time to maybe talk about some of the in-house things that have changed due to COVID-19. Like any differences with your school or the ways that you meet with your organizations or anything like that that you want to share.
Well, at my school, the clubs, we still have them, but they're just meeting differently. So I know this year our Student Government Association Club is now meeting through Zoom. We used to meet in person once a week, but now we meet every Fridays when everyone is like e-learning, and we just meet through Zoom on those days. So we basically just do Zoom meetings now in most of our clubs.
How do you like it? Just curious.
I like it better because usually the clubs are like early in the morning, so I have to wake up earlier. So now I just like go over on about my day and stuff. So I like it better.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else want to share something that has maybe changed as it relates to services due to COVID-19?
We had like clubs, I think once or twice a month, and now it's changed because like we can't do the clubs. There were like clubs like basketball or helping out around the school, but we can't do it now.
Okay, so all of those things have stopped since COVID. Can't get my words out.
Yes.
Oh my. Do you think that's how do you think people feel about that, or how do you feel about that? How has that kind of changed the dynamic at school?
It changed like probably not a lot, but a little bit.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. So what do you think, and I would like to hear from each of you, if possible, of some ways that organizations could maybe connect with students during this time. Any feedback or insight that you'd like to give us would be useful. We're eager to hear from you all as it relates to ways to just connect and stay connected.
I think maybe like, I feel like, okay, this might sound really bad and I don't mean it to in any way, but I feel like the way that I hear about most organizations is through like previous things in school that I've been a part of for a long time. So like I feel like if I were outside of my school group, I wouldn't have heard about this panel at all. So I think maybe like trying to like heavily promote inside and outside of school, like through social media where you know the kids will see it and stuff like that, would help really, really well in my personal opinion. But I feel like trying like social media, especially because that's where a lot of us are these days, would really help in getting stuff out there.
Great. Janae, if you would like to turn your camera on and join the conversation, I just was notified that you are on, so we'd love to have you interject. All right. Hello, Janae. Where are you from and what county do you live in and what grade are you in?
I'm in 10th grade and I'm from Greenville County.
Greenville. All right. Welcome to the conversation. So we are now hearing from everybody, and if you'd like to just jump on in about ways that organizations can connect with students during this time.
I think probably through school clubs and social media. They're probably the best ways to get in touch with students now.
Okay. All right. Brandon, anything you want to add there?
Like social media, like they said, and probably like other things through the internet.
Okay, through the internet. And last but not least, Shavy, do you want to add anything?
No, not really. I pretty much agree. Like social media and school clubs are the main reason to get like student involvement.
Oh, I'm muted. I've heard social media be mentioned a few times, and so I've been asked to ask you all which social media platforms are you using the most, and what yeah, that's it. Which social media platforms are you using the most? So we'd love to hear from each of you so that we can get various perspectives. So Zoe, if you want to kick it off, and then everybody else just kind of let us know which social media platforms you're using the most.
So I use Instagram a lot, and I also use Snapchat frequently. And those are the two main ones. Occasionally I'll get on like Twitter and stuff like that, but it's not as constant as Instagram and Snapchat.
I mainly I use Instagram to like promote things through like school organizations and stuff. But other than that, I use TikTok a lot. Yeah.
TikTok is right.
I use Instagram and TikTok the most. I don't really use Twitter or Snapchat, so those would probably be best for me.
Probably use Instagram and Twitter the most.
Instagram and Twitter, you said?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. You see, there was absolutely no Facebook organization leaders that are on here. So that gives you some insight that when you're on Facebook or LinkedIn or some of the, even Instagram, sometimes you're probably connecting with their parents for your messaging. But if you're looking from them, you might want to check out Snap and TikTok and sometimes Instagram, right? All right. Let's see what else we can talk. During these changes of the pandemic, what do you feel like has been the biggest challenge for students? And you can come from your own personal experience or the experiences of your friends or things you've heard. But I'd also, again, like to hear from everyone around some of the biggest challenges from when we had to switch back in the spring up until now, going back into the fall semester virtually or hybridly or differently.
You can go first. I'm sorry.
Okay. Most of my friends do hybrid, and something me and my friends have struggled with is focusing on the schoolwork, because when we're home, sometimes it doesn't click that we're supposed to be doing work and not relaxing. And another thing would probably be trying to get the websites that they assign us to use for certain assignments to work, because sometimes they don't work in certain areas for students. One of my friends has been struggling the most with that because one website the teacher uses constantly, she just can't get to work at home or at school, so she's currently failing the class, and her teacher isn't really understanding of that.
For kicking that off.
I agree with her actually. So most of my friends do hybrid as well, and it's kind of difficult so at my school it's Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday is the hybrid days. So I'm Monday, Tuesday, but on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday I'm e-learning. So those days it's kind of difficult for me to like focus on schoolwork because I'm always at home and I'm like, I don't want to do schoolwork. And it also, I struggle with like boundaries. So like you can see me working from like 8 to 12 and then take like 3-hour breaks and then work from like 5 to 9. Like I just have weird timings with my schoolwork, but also like lack of communication. Like I know for my friends who are Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesdays, they don't really know what to do because our teachers don't really like post things for them on Mondays and Tuesdays. They post them after they meet, and they just like have struggle meeting the deadlines. If that makes sense. That was kind of confusing what I said.
Yeah, no, that made sense. Thank you for sharing.
Whenever I first found out that we were doing like the 2-day, 3-day schedule, so like Shavy and I go to the same school, so like I'm at school Monday, Tuesday, and then I'm home Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I was very concerned with the fact that I'm a very like hands-on, have to be in the room with the teacher kind of learner. So I was really worried for myself and like knowing that I wouldn't be in the classroom 5 days a week like I usually am, and that's just the best way I learn. But it, contrary to how I felt at the beginning, it's actually worked out quite well for me because I've been able to actually, like, I work a part-time job, so I've been able to work my job a lot more, and I find myself getting my schoolwork done a lot quicker than I typically would have. So it was very scary at first, but now I'm okay with it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
We're virtually online for like on the whole week. We haven't gone back to school yet, so it's kind of hard sometimes.
Oh, thanks for sharing. Not going at all. Brandon, what would you say is most difficult? Is it similar to everyone else with the technology, that their challenges, or is it, what would you say would be your number one challenge with the whole 100% virtual?
Probably communication, like asking for teachers for help, because they can't really, like, I would say, show you, not like when we were back in school, or like they write it on the board, or like come to you. Instead, like they probably have to email you or something.
Gotcha. Okay. So communication and getting like assistance. Okay. Thank you. So I have some questions here. Do school nurses, counselors, et cetera, career counselors, academic counselors, coaches, those type of things. I know we have various schools, and so some of those things may look different for each of you, but do any of those people, nurses or counselors, connect to any of the organizations to support students? Like, are they able to talk to you all virtually? Is there a way to connect with them? Or has that service not really been around since you're not in school 100%?
For my school, so since I'm a senior, we get like emails from our guidance counselors about like graduation and like college applications and stuff, but that's about it. Like if we need help, we have to reach out ourselves and they help us that way. But like other than that, nothing really has changed, especially for school nurses. Like I haven't talked to my school nurse at all this year.
Okay. And how is that different than before? So maybe hopefully had some friends that were seniors last year, so maybe you can answer this. How how would you all have communicated with like a guidance counselor last year? Would that have been an in-person session, or would it still have been an email?
It would kind of be both. Like last year, all of the my senior friends from last year, they would just go to the guidance counselor's office and be like, I need to see my guidance counselor for this, and then be like, okay, can you wait a couple minutes? And then they'll like talk to them that way. But this year you have to like email them, and then they schedule you a time, and it's kind of difficult, especially with us going to school for 2 days, because they only have to meet us those 2 days, but they also don't want to interrupt our in-person learning time, because those are the only 2 days that we get.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a balance.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else have any insight around meeting with counselors or school nurses or any of those kind of support service things during this time? Have they offered any virtual connections?
It's mostly through email. Like, yeah.
All right, so I have a few more questions. People want to hear from you all, so I get to go off of I get to deviate from my script here. So if I chumble up a little bit, it's because I didn't know these were coming. But let's see, I lost it. Oh no. How can outside organizations, so people who would maybe typically come and visit your school, right? How could they deliver some programs and services that make it interactive, but like don't feel like school? Any ideas around how they could maybe create those environments for you all virtually?
I know that like with some of the guest speakers I've had in my classes, they like reach out, or my teacher reaches out to them, or sometimes they even reach out to the teacher like, hey, I want to talk about this with the school, can I come to your class? And then my teacher's obviously like, yeah, sure, that's totally fine. So maybe if like I don't know, I don't want to speak for anyone else because I'm not really sure, but if there was more like communication or people going, hey, is there something that I can give my kids that like it's gonna make this seem fun? And I feel like the more fun something is made to seem, the more we'd be willing to interact with it, because that's just we're kids. That's the best way I can explain that.
Make it fun.
Make it fun.
Anybody else want to add something there?
I think communicating with the teachers about with different people, with different organizations, and try to make it as fun as possible with the kids is a really good idea, especially for the younger kids in like elementary school or middle school.
Thanks. I think making it is a key theme here. What changes due to COVID have been positive for you? What are some things that you hope to maybe see stay around as we hopefully one day shift back to, I don't want to say normal, but what we used to know, right? What are some things that you'd like to maybe see stay the same, or some positives from COVID? That's kind of like two questions. Hope I didn't confuse you there.
I don't know about the rest of
Probably
you.
say like the time, because now for my high school classes it's only 35 minutes. Sometimes it's like an hour for some classes, so probably like the time.
Thanks, Brandon. Shady, I think you were gonna add something too.
So I really like how Fridays are e-learning days and that we don't have to go to school on Fridays. I personally just like that better. It gives me more time to like focus, and I don't know, I just like it better. Like going to school 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week. I think a lot of students like that, but personally I like it because it gets me time to like focus on more schoolwork and be like more prepared for the rest of the week, if that makes sense.
And I agree with Shavy on that one too, because sometimes I let myself not do my work, and so having that one day at the end of the week, it to help like catch myself back up before the weekend, because when the weekend comes nobody wants to do anything. So having that Friday where I'm at home and I can get whatever I need out of the way has been really, really helpful so far.
personally, I think I would like to see some, not all, of the safety protocols in place. Like at least some of the sanitation stuff in the classroom, especially around flu season, so we don't have anything close to this happen again. I just personally would feel more comfortable with that in schools if we ever go anywhere near normal again.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing, you all. I definitely appreciate that. Let's go back a little bit because this was a very big theme earlier, and I do have another question from the chat that I'm going to kind of cross up with this. So if I get tangled up again, give me grace. But let's talk a little bit about the technology differences and how the online tools and apps and websites and the generational differences, all of that jazz. Do you feel like there wasn't enough preparation around the technology? What do you feel like, or do you feel like it's just too many people using it? Do you have any suggestions on platforms that maybe should be used? Let's just talk a little bit about that technology piece and some of the things kind of not working, or if you want to dive into what has worked. Let's just talk a little bit about that, because earlier that was a big piece that came up about the technology glitches and things like that.
I'll start.
Um,
Oh, you can go. I have.
Personally, I think that, because personally, my school, we use most of the same websites for each grade on almost every class. So sometimes they lag or they just completely don't work for a lot of the students. So I think if they could find different websites to help us, because most of the websites are video based and are made to ask you questions about the video, and it doesn't work all the time for a lot of us. So if they could find something similar or maybe a new way of doing it for at least my school or the district, I think it would help a lot. That way we could all get what we need and no one's behind because everyone's using it.
Thank you.
Probably say like sharing the screen, because when we're watching a video and like together in class, it's probably laggy or you can't hear the audio, so it like makes it tough.
Thanks. So would it be better, you think, Brandon, if they just maybe sent everybody the same link to watch the video instead of trying to share the screen, to maybe cut down on the lag time? Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, yeah, but probably people probably won't do it, or like probably won't work,
Mm.
so probably maybe a little tougher.
All right, gotcha. Thanks. Ladies.
So at my school, we usually, nothing's different with my school because we already have technology before COVID happened. Like we all have math books and stuff because our district's fortunate enough to have that. But the only difficulty that we had was with Zoom, like because Zoom was so new and not many teachers knew how to work it. So I think that was the only difficulty for our teachers. Well, it's like from what my experience has been.
And you said you were in Lexington County, correct?
Yes.
And you and Zoe go to the same school, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Zoe, would that be your same thoughts, or are there some other things that maybe have been kind of blah with technology?
I feel like that pretty much sums it up. I've run into a couple of problems where I've like had teachers be like, "Hey, use this link. This is what you have to do to like finish your classwork." And then I go to log in and it's like the night that it's due and then the link's blocked and I'm like, "Well, what am I supposed to do now?" But I've only encountered that like once or twice, and then my teacher and I, we were able to work it out. He gave me an extension, so it worked out nicely. But it's just knowing like what we're allowed to use versus what we're not allowed to use has been the biggest issue so far, I think.
Okay, thank you so much. And is there anyone else who has questions for our panelists? We still have a little bit more time. I would love for you to share those. And if I missed anybody's question, if you type it again, I think I caught them all. Or if in control, if you'd like to maybe unmute yourself and ask the question, any of those, I just don't want anyone's question to be missed, because these young people are giving some great insight around some of the questions that we've had of you all as it relates to how you felt about the changes that have been going on. Do you feel like you're getting what you need from school? And I'd love for you to just be completely honest and transparent in your answers here. Do you feel like there's anything that you're missing, or do you feel like you'll still have the same learning experience that you would have had we not been going through this? And if there are things that you feel like you're missing, can you maybe speak to those?
I know that I'm taking AP Biology this year, and I've been looking forward to that class since freshman year, because I'm a huge science nerd. I love biology. I hate chemistry, but I love biology. And I was really looking forward to like the hands-on lab aspect of it. But my teacher told us at the beginning of class, she was like, don't expect it to be what you thought it was going to be, because it's difficult to socially distance while doing the labs and like ordering 30 of the different like types of materials on budget and stuff like that. So that was a little disappointing, because I was very, very excited. But she was like, we're going to try our hardest to make sure that you get the experience you knew you were going to have coming into the class. But I feel like that's the only like devastating thing I've suffered so far.
Cool. Thank you.
Personally, I also don't feel like I'm getting everything I need from my AP World class, because first of all, he's not posting as much as he probably should be for an AP teacher. So we're just kind of not getting anything from his class. And he kind of just pops up with different assessments for us. So we don't really know when we have a quiz or a test, because he doesn't really tell us anything about it. So it's kind of like, what are you doing? So I don't feel like I'm getting all that I should be getting, how we've been 5 days a week before the whole COVID thing.
Gotcha. Thank you. Anybody
I
else?
would say like human geography, since I just realized that we have a test tomorrow, and he didn't tell us until today. So like I said earlier, like the communication. Oh yeah.
Thank you. How do you feel about not being at school with your friends? I know a few of you are attending school sometime, but it still is not as much time. So how has that been for you, the transition of not being at school with your friends?
It's not that bad.
Yeah, I have like one or two friends in like my little cohort area, and I mean we kind of like walk to class with each other and stuff like that. But my other friends that are in the back half of the cohort, I think it actually, they might not agree with this, but I think it's kind of working out a little bit better for us, because whenever we get together as like a big group and spend time together, it's more like valuable, I guess, because we haven't seen each other in so long. So it's like more fun and we have more things to talk about. But that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, I agree. So we don't really, at my school, we don't have time to like see our friends if we're not in the same class, because when we get to school, we have to go to our first class immediately. Like we can't hang around in the halls like we did last year. And for lunch, we're not allowed to sit with our friends anyway. We have to sit like in our designated classrooms, are pre-assigned. So if we're not with our friends, then there's no point like being with our friends, if that makes sense. So like, and like all of our friends who are in the same class, we all have phones, so we can all like text each other if we truly wanted to talk. It's difficult.
I agree with the both of them. most of my friends are in the first group. I only have a few friends in my group, but either way, throughout the week, I still call and text all of them just to catch up. So because of technology, I kind of don't miss not seeing them because I still get to do that with FaceTime and text. So
Basically, they're telling us we're old and there's so many new ways to connect with our friends, and they don't miss them because they're still just as connected as they were before COVID. So I think that was the answer to the question. She said yes, basically. I think we may have perused over this earlier, but we have an anonymous question that says, what are ways you feel you can be supported during all of this? So if someone would like to maybe recap the answer from earlier, we can move. I think I did that correctly. If anybody would just kind of give a recap. One way to support is to make it fun. That's what we learned earlier.
All the fun. And I guess just reaching out as much as possible, because sometimes like I'll receive emails and I'll kind of be like, meh. But if I get like the same email over and over and over again, then eventually I'm gonna be like, okay, what is this email about? And I'll like research it and look more into it, and then I'm kind of like, oh, this is something I actually like want to involve myself in. So it may seem annoying, but be persistent with us because we're kids.
And Zoe does not mind reminding us, like, we're kids. You got to do it different here. And we thank you for that. Sometimes us adults, we don't really know what we're doing with communicating with you. So thanks for teaching us, right? Make it fun. Text me. Make a TikTok video. Don't try to find me on Facebook. So one last thing I want to ask, it's about like nonprofits in your community. So as you think of Greenville County, Richland, Lexington, what are some things that they could do to support you? I think earlier I heard something about maybe parking lot events when Vicki was talking, or different things that help you get maybe items you need. I don't know. Let me not try to skew your answers there. But what are some ways that nonprofit organizations can maybe support you, or maybe try to figure out how they can link with the school to maybe make some communication channels or extra learning support or something? Let's talk about that. Y'all do the answering. Let me be quiet.
I feel like getting in contact with the school, like guidance counselors and stuff, because some people don't feel comfortable just going to the nurse and asking. So maybe saying, hey, I'm a guidance counselor, or I work with someone with the district and I'm meant to help you with this. So if you want to talk, come talk to me and no one else will have to know. And I feel like getting in touch with those kind of people in the district is going to help a lot with the communication barriers between the students and the district and the nonprofits.
Thank you. Put you on my board. Thank you. Oh, you guys are awesome. Anybody else?
I think just kind of like reaching out through the school is the best way, because if like nonprofits get in touch with the school, then the school can kind of promote it to the students, and if the students feel like it's something that they want to get in touch with, then they can take it from there. Yeah.
Anything you want to just leave us with? Is there anything that, as we kind of wrap up this discussion, and you've heard some of the questions that us old folks have for you all, is there anything that you want to leave with everyone here before we kind of wrap it up? Yeah, that's the question.
Just one thing, always try every way to communicate with us. Because there's a good chance we're not going to try to communicate with you. So always try to find a way to communicate with us.
That's true, though.
A lot of my teachers they set up like remind groups, like that way that they could actually like send us text messages, because I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I don't check my email to save my life. I'll go like a week and I'm like, hey, let me check my email, and then it'd be like, hey, you had something due 5 days ago, and I'm like, ah, thanks. So using Remind allows you to be able to like text your students without giving them your phone number, which is very helpful.
What was that called? I'm sorry.
Called Remind. It's REMIND. But so my teachers like text me and they're like, hey, this is due at the end of the week. You haven't turned it in yet. And that's just an easier way for me to be able to remember when things are due and stuff like that.
Is it like sends it to your phone, so we get a text message and we're obviously going to check our text messages more than our emails, so it's just easier because it's like a notification.
Yeah.
Also, if you do send emails, send us multiple. We're not going to check the first one, like keep sending them.
Because personally, I always forget to check my email. I say I'm going to, and then 2 minutes later, I'm on TikTok.
Ah, so bad.
Make myself a little reminder in my phone to be like, check your email, stupid.
Thanks so much. And I have one last question. Do you all get tired of like virtual things? Like, should people like not do them on the weekends, or is it okay to do stuff on the weekends? Like, I'm trying to maybe help some of my fellow programmers on here to think around when is a good time to do stuff. Beginning of the week, middle, end, weekend, never. Is it better for it to be recorded or should it be live? What are some like don't do it that day kind of things that you could give them for advice?
Don't do it on the weekends. Like the weekends, we already have school Monday through Friday. Do it like after school, like 4 to 5. That's a pretty good time. Because
Yeah,
it's
I'd say,
basically another after school activity. So like we can easily account for that. But if it's on the weekends, so we're not gonna do it as much.
I'd say evenings are probably the best like area to get to us the most, because like Shavy said, the weekends I'm kind of like, I want to do my own thing. I don't really want to do school things, but like after school I'm still kind of in like the school mindset. So if I'm looking at my calendar, I'm like, oh hey, I have this thing later tonight, then it'll just keep me there. So
I also suggest like doing a live Google Meet like what we're doing and recording it. That way, if anyone missed it, they could just email saying, hey, I missed it. Can you give me the recording? And you can give them the recording and they won't have missed out on anything.
Probably say like a daily reminder of what we did in class, like what we have up the upcoming week for like a test or homework due the next day.
Thanks. Notifications, no weekends, make it fun, TikTok, don't bore them. I'm making a list for everyone. Well, it looks like we're coming up on time. And so I thank you all for participating. You all have been very, very insightful to us. I would like to think to everyone based on the chat that this has been pretty good. All right, be sure to join us on the 29th for the part 2 of this event. During this part 2 panel, we'll have some experts come to join us and share their experiences for delivering school-based programs and adjusting during COVID-19. I'm super excited to hear from them, so I'm gonna make sure that I put it on my calendar, and it's not on the weekend, so we hope to see you all there so you can hear their perspectives. And I'm interested to see if some of the challenges are the same or if their thought processes and understanding of students is as sharp as you guys. So thanks everyone for being here. Have a great evening.